Communication is one of the most powerful skills in the world. It shapes the way people see you, how they treat you, and the opportunities that come your way. The words you speak carry energy. They can inspire someone, motivate someone, or even change their life. But most people never learn how language actually works. They speak without thinking, listen without understanding, and express themselves without intention. What if you knew how language affects the human mind? What if you understood how your tone, words, and body language create emotional reactions in others? This audiobook will help you unlock that power. You'll learn how to speak clearly, how to influence people positively, and how to communicate with confidence in any situation. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future audiobooks that can help you grow and become your best self. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Understanding the Power of Words. Language is one of the most powerful forces in the world, even though we often overlook it. Every word you speak carries meaning, emotion, and influence. When you speak, you are not only sharing information. You are shaping how others feel, how they see you, and how they respond to you. Words are more than sounds. They are signals that the mind interprets emotionally. A simple sentence can inspire someone to try harder, or it can break someone's confidence. That is why communication is not just something we do, it is something that affects everything around us. Most people speak without thinking about the effect their words have. They speak quickly, they react emotionally, and they choose words that do not match their true intentions. They talk just to fill silence or just to reply. But powerful communication begins when you understand that words are tools. When used with intention, they create clarity. When used carelessly, they create confusion. When you realize this, you start speaking differently. You pause before responding. You choose calmer language. You listen more. You speak with purpose, not just impulse. Think about how certain words have stayed with you for years. Maybe someone once told you that you are talented or that you inspired them. Even if that moment happened long ago, the words still live in your memory because of how they made you feel. Now think about a time when someone said something hurtful. Maybe they said you were not good enough or that you would never succeed. Those words might have stayed in your mind as well, shaping your beliefs and the way you see yourself. This is why words matter. They do not disappear after they are spoken. They settle into the mind and create thoughts, beliefs, and emotions that can last a lifetime. When you speak, the meaning of your words depends not only on what you say, but also on how you say it. Tone plays a huge role in communication. You can say, "I understand," with a calm, gentle voice, and it creates comfort. But you can say the same words with frustration, and it creates distance. The sentence did not change, but the emotional impact did. This is why mastering language also means mastering tone, pacing, and emotional delivery. People respond more to how your words make them feel than to the words themselves. Communication is not only about speaking clearly, it is also about listening deeply. Many people listen only to answer. They wait for their turn to speak. They interrupt because their mind is focused on what they want to say next. But real communication happens when you listen to understand, not to react. When someone feels understood, their guard lowers. They feel safe sharing their thoughts. They feel respected. Listening is not passive. It is an active part of communication that builds trust and deeper connection. Strong communication also increases your influence. Influence is not about controlling others. It is about inspiring them. When you communicate confidently and respectfully, people take you seriously. They trust your words. They seek your opinion. But when you speak with insecurity or anger, people close themselves off. They stop listening. Communication builds influence when it comes from clarity and calmness, not pressure or loudness. Influence grows from connection, not force. Another important part of communication is emotional control. When emotions take over, language becomes unfiltered. People say things they regret because they speak from frustration, not intention. They speak fast, speak loudly, or speak without considering how their words may affect the other person. This is how arguments begin and relationships weaken. Communication requires emotional awareness. When you feel angry or stressed, pause before speaking. Let the emotion pass through your mind before it reaches your mouth. A few seconds of silence can save hours of conflict. Sometimes silence is more powerful than speech. Silence shows patience. Silence allows others to finish their thoughts. Silence can calm tension. Silence can prevent you from saying something harmful in a heated moment. Communication is not only the words you choose, it is also knowing when not to speak. Silence used with wisdom becomes a tool of emotional strength. Intention is another key part of effective language. Before speaking, ask yourself what your purpose is. Are you speaking to help? Are you speaking to prove something? Are you speaking to be right? Or are you speaking to solve a problem? When you speak without intention, your message becomes unclear. But when you speak with purpose, your words become stronger and more meaningful. People can feel when you speak from a genuine place rather than ego or frustration. Your communication also affects how you see yourself. The conversations you have inside your own mind shape your confidence and identity. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not smart, not capable, or not worthy, your mind begins to believe it. But if your self-talk is encouraging and supportive, your confidence grows. The words you use with yourself are just as important as the ones you use with others. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you care about. Communication also has a strong impact on relationships. Many conflicts happen not because people truly disagree, but because they misunderstand each other. A small change in wording can change the entire meaning of a sentence. A careless tone can hurt someone's feelings even if you did not intend to. When you communicate clearly and respectfully, misunderstandings reduce, conversations become easier, relationships become stronger. Another part of communication is storytelling. Humans are natural storytellers, and we understand stories better than facts. Stories carry emotion. They create connection. When you explain something using a story, people remember it longer. When you share personal experiences, people relate to you. Storytelling turns normal communication into meaningful impact. It builds connection and trust because stories speak to the heart. Communication shapes how others see your character. Kind words create warmth. Respectful words create trust. Clear words create understanding. Defensive or rude words create distance. The way you speak sends a message about what kind of person you are. Your language becomes part of your identity. People remember how you made them feel, and your words play a big role in that memory. Once you realize this, communication becomes more than talking. It becomes a practice. You start choosing words that bring clarity, not confusion. You start listening to understand, not to argue. You start speaking with intention, not just reaction. You become someone who communicates with awareness, respect, and emotional intelligence. Every day offers a chance to communicate better. You can take one conversation and choose patience over irritation. You can choose a calm tone instead of anger. You can choose to listen instead of interrupt. These small choices create big results over time. They improve relationships, increase opportunities, and build confidence. Words are free to speak, but they cost something when heard. They can build someone up or tear them down. They can open doors or close them. They can create peace or create conflict. When you understand the power of words, you begin using them with more care. You speak less to impress and more to connect. Language shapes your life. Communication shapes your future. When you learn to use words wisely, you gain a skill that affects every part of your life, from friendships to career to self-growth. Speaking with intention, respect, and clarity is not just a skill, it is a sign of maturity and emotional intelligence. It is a tool that helps you grow into the person you want to become. This is why understanding the power of words is the first step in mastering the psychology of language and communication. Once you learn how powerful your words are, you begin to speak differently, listen differently, and live differently. Communication becomes a skill you sharpen, not something you take for granted. And with each conversation, you gain more control over how you influence the world around you. Chapter 2. How language shapes perception. Every time you speak, you are doing more than expressing thoughts. You are shaping how people see you, how they understand your intentions, and how they form opinions about your personality. Language is more than communication, it is perception. The words you choose, the tone you use, and the way you express ideas create an image in the minds of others. People often decide who you are based not on who you really are, but on how you communicate. This is why learning how language shapes perception is one of the most important parts of becoming a strong communicator. When you speak confidently, people assume you know what you are talking about. When you speak softly and with hesitation, people may assume you are unsure, even when you are correct. When you speak with respect, people see maturity. When you speak with anger, they see aggression. Even when your message is valid, the mind connects style with identity. The way you communicate becomes part of how people define you. They may describe you as kind, rude, smart, careless, organized, immature, or professional based on your language. In many cases, perception forms within just a few seconds. The first sentence you say, the way you greet someone, or the tone in which you start a conversation can shape the entire interaction. The first few moments act like the cover of a book. People decide how they will listen to you based on how you begin. If your tone is calm and respectful, they open up. If your tone is tense or impatient, they close off. The message may be the same, but the reaction changes because perception changed. Language also shapes how people feel about themselves. Some people make others feel small without realizing it. They speak with sharp tones, quick reactions, or dismissive phrases that create discomfort. Others make people feel valued by choosing gentle words, asking questions, and speaking patiently. People remember how you make them feel, and language is the main tool that creates those feelings. When you speak in a way that makes others feel respected, they want to be around you more. When you speak in a way that makes others feel judged, they distance themselves. Perception is not only shaped by how you speak to others, it is also shaped by how you speak about yourself. If you constantly say things like "I can't," "I'm not smart," or "I always fail," people begin to see you as someone lacking confidence. But if you speak with self-belief, saying things like "I will try," "I'm learning," or "I can figure this out," people see you as someone capable and determined. The way you speak about yourself teaches others how to treat you. Language becomes a signal of your identity. Even simple word choices can shape perception. Saying, "I have to do this," feels like pressure. Saying, "I want to do this," feels like purpose. Saying, "I don't know," can sound like weakness, but saying "I'm still learning" sounds like progress. Small changes in language can change how others see you and how you see yourself. Language not only communicates reality, it influences how reality is experienced. Communication also shapes perception through emotional tone. When you speak with curiosity, people feel invited. When you speak with sarcasm, people feel judged. When you speak with calmness, people feel safe. When you speak with panic, others feel anxious. People mirror the emotional energy you bring into a conversation. Your words act like emotional signals that guide how others react. This is why leaders speak calmly during stress. They know their language influences how others think and behave. Sometimes perception is shaped by what you do not say. Silence, pauses, and listening also carry meaning. If someone shares something personal and you stay silent, they may think you do not care. If someone talks and you pause before replying, they may feel respected because you listened. Silence can mean comfort or discomfort depending on context. Communication is not only speaking, it is the space between words. That space influences how your words are understood. Another powerful part of communication is how you express disagreement. Disagreement does not have to create conflict. It can create respect when expressed with calmness. If you say, "You're wrong," that makes no sense. The other person feels attacked. But if you say, "I understand what you mean, but I see it differently," the same disagreement becomes a conversation instead of a fight. The meaning is the same, but the language changes perception. People often believe that communication is about proving themselves right, but communication is about connection. When you try to win every conversation, you create distance. When you try to understand, you create trust. The goal is not to sound smarter than someone else. The goal is to communicate in a way that brings understanding. When you communicate with humility rather than pride, you shape a stronger, more positive perception. Perception also builds reputation. When you consistently speak with respect, others learn to trust you. When you consistently complain, people see you as negative. When you speak carelessly, people see you as irresponsible. Over time, your communication style becomes your identity to others. This can open or close opportunities. Sometimes success is not about who is most talented, but who communicates in a way that attracts respect and confidence. Language also affects perception in public spaces. The way you speak in school, work, online, or in social settings influences how people categorize you. Presenting yourself clearly and thoughtfully can lead to leadership opportunities, new friendships, and recognition, but speaking without awareness can limit growth. You may have great ideas, but if you cannot express them clearly, others may not notice. Communication acts as the bridge between potential and recognition. The communication also shapes perception internally. The way you talk to yourself becomes the voice that guides your actions. If your inner language is negative, you begin to limit yourself before others can. You may say no to opportunities because the voice inside you says you are not ready. But if your inner voice is encouraging, you take more action, learn more, and grow. Self-talk shapes self-perception, and self-perception shapes behavior. The mind listens to your own words. The powerful thing about language is that you can change it. You can choose words that reflect clarity, confidence, kindness, and self-respect. You can remove language that reflects insecurity, judgment, or negativity. You can speak in ways that help others feel understood and appreciated. Communication is not a fixed trait. It is a skill you can develop every day, simply by paying attention to how your words feel. To shape perception with language, you must pay attention to three things: how you speak to others, how you speak about others, and how you speak to yourself. When these three areas align with calmness, intention, and respect, your communication becomes powerful. People begin to see you as someone who listens, someone who understands, someone who thinks before speaking. You become someone others trust. Language is a reflection of the mind. The clearer your communication becomes, the clearer your relationships, goals, and identity become. The words you choose become part of your personal energy and influence the world around you. When you communicate with awareness, you shape perception with purpose instead of by accident. This is how language becomes a tool for shaping not just conversations, but your entire life. When you understand that every word builds an emotional and social impression, you begin communicating with care. You create deeper connections, better opportunities, and a stronger sense of identity. Communication is not just about what you say. It is about what people feel after you speak. When you understand this, you speak differently. And when you speak differently, people see you differently. That is how language shapes perception. Chapter 3: The Hidden Power of Listening. Listening is one of the most important parts of communication, yet it is often the most ignored. Most people think communication is about speaking well, choosing the right words, and expressing ideas clearly. But the other side of communication, the side that people forget, is listening. When you learn to listen, truly listen, you begin to understand people on a deeper level. You hear more than words. You hear feelings, intentions, and meaning that may not be spoken directly. Many people believe they are good listeners simply because they stay quiet while others talk. But silence alone is not listening. Real listening means paying attention to the person, to their tone, to their emotions, to their pauses, and to what they are trying to say beneath the surface. Most people listen with the intention to respond, not to understand. They wait for their turn to speak, planning their reply in their head, while the other person is still talking. This creates a surface-level connection. True listening creates emotional connection. When you listen deeply, you make people feel seen. You make them feel important. People are often surrounded by others who talk over them, ignore their feelings, or give quick answers without understanding their situation. So when someone finally listens with patience and respect, it feels different. It feels safe. They open up more. They trust you more. They begin to share thoughts they usually keep inside. Listening is a doorway to trust and closeness. Listening also helps avoid misunderstandings. Many arguments happen not because people disagree, but because they think they heard what the other person meant, when actually they misunderstood. A single word, spoken too quickly or heard incorrectly, can start conflict that never needed to exist. When you listen carefully, you break that cycle. You give space for clarity. You repeat things in your mind before responding. You ask questions instead of assuming. This creates smoother conversations and stronger relationships. Another powerful thing about listening is that it shows maturity. Anyone can speak loudly, argue, or push their opinion first. It takes emotional control to pause, breathe, and give others space to share. Listening shows respect, and respect creates influence. When people feel respected by you, they listen to you. When it is your turn to speak, they value your opinion because you valued theirs first. Influence is earned through listening, not demanding. Listening is also a way to learn. Every person you talk to knows something you do not. They may have different experiences, ideas, or knowledge that can help you grow. When you listen, you absorb new information. When you talk too much, you learn nothing. People who listen well often succeed faster because they gather knowledge wherever they go. Conversations become learning experiences, not just exchanges of words. Sometimes people just need someone to hear them. Not to fix their problems, not to give advice, just to understand how they feel. When someone is sad, anxious, or overwhelmed, they may not need answers. They may need comfort. They may need a silent presence. They may need someone to sit with them and say, "I hear you." Listening is emotional support. It tells someone they are not alone. It gives them strength to keep going. There is also a deep psychological part of listening. When you listen to someone, they feel valued. The human mind wants to feel important. When someone ignores us, interrupts us, or shows no interest in what we say, it creates emotional distance. But when someone listens, it satisfies a basic human need, the need to be understood. This need is universal. Everyone wants to be understood. When you learn to provide that feeling, people feel drawn to you. Listening also helps you control your emotions. In conflict, the first reaction is often to defend yourself. You want to explain, justify, or argue, but when you listen first, the tension lowers. Sometimes just listening prevents a fight. It shows the other person that their feelings matter, and once they feel heard, they become more willing to hear you too. Listening turns arguments into conversations. It turns anger into understanding. Sometimes you learn more from what someone does not say than from what they do say. Silence, pauses, and hesitation carry meaning. When someone takes a long pause before answering, it may mean they are unsure, hurt, or thinking deeply. When someone speaks softly, It may mean they are scared to express themselves. When someone changes the subject quickly, it may mean they are hiding something or avoiding a painful topic. Listening means noticing these subtle signals. Language is not just words, it is behavior. Listening can also change how someone sees you. When you listen to others, they begin to see you as trustworthy, wise, and emotionally strong. They feel comfortable confiding in you. They come to you for advice, not because you speak perfectly, but because you understand them. Listening makes your presence valuable. People feel better after talking to someone who listens. They feel lighter, calmer, and more understood. Listening also helps you understand yourself better. When you listen to how others react to you, you start noticing patterns. You learn what makes people feel connected and what creates distance. You learn which tones bother people and which ones calm them. You learn how your words land. Communication becomes a mirror. When you listen to others, you also learn how to communicate better yourself. Listening takes practice. It does not come naturally to everyone. Most people are used to being the speaker, not the listener. To become a better listener, you must train your mind to slow down. You must resist the urge to speak right away. You must learn to ask questions instead of reacting. You must listen with your full attention, not half attention while your mind is somewhere else. When someone speaks to you, give them your eyes. Look at them, not your phone. Give them your full presence. Your attention is a gift. When you offer it, people feel valued. When you hold back that attention, people feel ignored. Listening is not only an action, it is an emotional signal. It says you matter. Listening also teaches patience. Not everyone expresses their thoughts quickly. Some people take time to find the right words. If you rush them, they shut down. If you interrupt, they feel unimportant. But if you wait, they eventually express their true thoughts. Patience unlocks honesty. Many powerful conversations happen only after silence. Listening is not weakness, it is strength. It shows that you are confident enough not to dominate the conversation. It shows that you respect others enough to want to understand them. It shows that you are secure enough not to prove yourself constantly. People with strong communication skills do not always speak more. They speak less, but say more. When you begin listening deeply, people treat you differently. They trust you more. They open up to you. They value you. They see you as someone with emotional depth. And when you finally speak, your words carry more weight because you took the time to understand first. Listening also prepares you to speak more effectively. When you understand the emotions of the person you are speaking to, you can choose words that match their needs. You can speak gently when they are hurting, clearly when they are confused, and confidently when they need leadership. This makes your communication more meaningful and effective. Listening is not something you do after you speak. It is something you do before you speak. It gives you information, emotional context, and understanding that help you communicate better. When you listen first, your message comes out wiser, calmer, and more accurate. The world has too many voices and not enough listeners. People want to talk, to argue, to express, but not to understand. When you choose to listen, you become rare. You stand out. You become someone others respect and remember. Listening may seem simple, but it is a skill that can change your relationships, your success, and your life. When you understand people, you communicate better. When you communicate better, you connect better. And when you connect better, you influence more. Listening is not just a communication skill. It is a human skill. It is the foundation of understanding, empathy, trust, and connection. When you learn to listen deeply, you unlock one of the most powerful elements of language. Chapter 4. Speaking with intent. Most people speak without thinking. They react instead of responding. They let emotions lead instead of purpose. They say whatever comes to mind because they never stop to ask themselves why they are speaking. But powerful communication begins when you speak with intent. Intent means having a purpose behind your words, It means your language has direction, clarity, and meaning. When you speak with intent, you are not just making noise, you are shaping outcomes. Many people talk to fill silence. They talk because they feel uncomfortable being quiet. They talk because they want attention. They talk because they feel pressure to say something, even when nothing meaningful needs to be said. But when you speak without intent, your words lose value. People stop listening. They hear your voice, but not your message. Intent gives your words weight. Speaking with intent does not mean speaking less. It means speaking with purpose. Before you speak, your mind asks a simple question: what am I trying to achieve with these words? You might want to comfort someone, solve a problem, share information, express feelings, or stand up for yourself. When you know your purpose, your words become clear. You stop speaking on impulse. You start speaking with direction. Intent also influences the emotional energy behind your speech. If your purpose is to help, your tone becomes warm. If your purpose is to solve, your tone becomes focused. If your purpose is to defend yourself, your tone may become tense. When you do not understand your own intention, you may communicate the wrong emotion. You may sound angry when you are actually hurt. You may sound distant when you are simply tired. Intent brings emotional accuracy. Someone who speaks with intent understands that words can create change. A teacher uses words to shape minds. A leader uses words to guide people. A friend uses words to support someone they care about. A speaker uses words to move an audience. Every powerful communicator understands that language directs action. Intent turns language from expression into influence. Speaking with intent also makes you more responsible with your language. When your goal is clear, you choose words that match your purpose instead of letting emotions choose words for you. If your goal is to calm a situation, you will avoid harsh or loud language. If your goal is to encourage someone, you will choose uplifting language instead of criticism. Intent protects relationships from misunderstandings and unnecessary conflict. Without intent, communication becomes messy. People say things they do not mean. They speak from assumptions. They reply without listening. They let stress or frustration speak for them. Later they regret their words because they did not think before releasing them. Speaking with intent means pausing long enough to decide if your words are necessary and helpful. Sometimes the most intentional choice is silence. Intent also helps you protect your energy. When you speak with purpose, you stop wasting time on conversations that go nowhere. You stop arguing just to win. You stop oversharing with people who are not ready to listen. You stop explaining yourself to people who do not want to understand. Speaking with intent helps you conserve your emotional and mental energy for conversations that matter. People feel the difference when you speak with intent. They take you seriously. They listen more closely. They respect your presence. Intent gives your voice authority, not because you try to sound powerful, but because you speak with clarity. People trust those who speak with purpose because their words feel stable, thoughtful, and grounded. Intent also helps you communicate more honestly. When you know what you want to say, you stop hiding behind vague language. You stop avoiding truth out of fear. You stop saying what others want to hear and start saying what needs to be said. You express feelings clearly instead of hinting. You ask directly instead of waiting for others to guess. Intent strengthens honesty by giving it direction. Many people struggle to communicate because they fear judgment. They speak carefully to avoid being misunderstood. They soften their message so others do not get upset. But when you have a clear intention, you speak confidently, even when the message is difficult. If your intention is sincerity, you do not need approval. If your intention is resolution, you do not need to defend your ego. Intent gives courage. Sometimes intent is not about what you want to say, but how you want others to feel. You may want someone to feel supported, respected, understood, or appreciated. When you know that emotional intention, your language changes. Instead of saying, "You'll be fine," you might say, "I know this is hard, and I'm here for you." Instead of saying, "Calm down," you might say, "I understand why you feel stressed. Let's take a breath together." Emotionally intentional speech builds connection. Intent also keeps conversations focused. Many discussions turn into arguments because people forget the original purpose. They start talking about the past, bringing up unrelated issues, or defending their pride instead of solving the problem. When you communicate with intent, you stay anchored to the goal. You do not let emotions pull you off track. You guide the conversation back to clarity. Speaking with intent also means knowing when to stop talking. You do not keep explaining yourself after your point is clear. You do not repeat ideas, hoping to convince someone who is not listening. You do not argue after the conversation becomes unproductive. When words no longer serve your purpose, silence becomes the intentional choice. Intent changes the relationship between thought and speech. Instead of speaking as soon as the mind forms a reaction, you let thoughts pass through a filter. The filter asks, does this help? Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this the right moment? Words that do not pass the filter do not escape. This filter makes communication mature. Intent can also strengthen self-expression. When you understand your emotions and needs, you express them clearly instead of expecting others to guess. Instead of saying, "You never care," you might say, "I feel ignored when my feelings are not considered." Instead of saying, "Forget it," you might say, "I need time to process." Intent turns emotional reactions into clear statements. Intent makes communication kinder. When you speak with purpose, you do not use language to hurt others, even in anger. You choose respect. You choose clarity. You choose empathy. You choose to communicate in a way that honors yourself and the other person. Kindness becomes purposeful, not accidental. Speaking with intent also strengthens leadership. People follow leaders who speak with vision. When a leader speaks without direction, others feel uncertain. But when a leader speaks with intent, people feel safe, guided, and inspired. Leaders communicate with intention because their words move people, not just thoughts. Intent is not something you practice once. It is something you carry into every conversation. It becomes a mindset. Before speaking, you ask yourself why. When you develop this habit, communication becomes conscious, not automatic. It becomes meaningful, not random. Your voice becomes something you control instead of something you react with. Your words become tools of clarity, emotion, support, progress, and connection. You begin to speak like someone who understands the power of language. Speaking with intent is not just a communication skill. It is a way of living with awareness. It is the decision to speak from purpose rather than emotion. It is the choice to make your words work for you, not against you. When you speak with intent, you take control of your communication. And when you control your communication, you take control of how you influence the world around you. Chapter 5: The Psychology of Tone and Emotion. Tone is the emotional color of your words. It is not what you say, but how you say it. Two people can speak the same sentence, using the same exact words, and still create two completely different emotional reactions. Someone can say a simple phrase like "I understand" and make you feel supported, or they can say the same words in a flat or annoyed tone that makes you feel dismissed. This is why tone is one of the most powerful elements of communication. People remember how your words made them feel, not just what you said. Most of the time, people do not pay attention to their tone. They focus on their message, their wording, their argument, or their point. They think communication is only about expressing ideas clearly. But people do not listen only with their ears. They listen with their emotions. They feel your tone before they understand your words. The emotional tone of your voice tells the listener whether you are angry, calm, anxious, confident, or uninterested. The tone becomes the emotional context that shapes how your message is received. Tone is often unconscious. Sometimes you speak quickly because you are nervous. Sometimes you speak loudly because you feel frustrated. Sometimes your voice sounds sharp because you are tired. You may not intend to sound rude or dismissive, but the listener experiences it that way. This is how misunderstandings happen. The message in your mind is different from the message they feel. When you become aware of your tone, you gain control over how others experience your communication. The voice carries emotion even when you do not explain it directly. A shaky voice can show fear. A slow voice can show thoughtfulness. A loud voice can show stress or confidence, depending on how it is used. Even silence between words carries emotional meaning. These signals are processed automatically by the listener. The human brain is trained to detect tone because it is part of how people understand social cues and emotional safety. Tone is especially important in moments of conflict. When emotions are high, tone can either calm the situation or make it worse. You might say something simple like, "We need to talk," but if your tone is tense, the other person may feel threatened. If your tone is gentle and calm, they may feel open to discussing the issue. The same sentence can lead to peace or conflict, depending on tone. Emotional awareness in tone is a sign of maturity. Sometimes people use tone as a defense. They speak harshly, not because they want to hurt others, but because they feel vulnerable. Sometimes they speak in a cold tone because they are protecting their emotions. Sometimes they sound angry because they are afraid. Tone can be an emotional shield. When you sense discomfort in someone's tone, it helps to listen beyond the words and try to understand the emotions underneath. This allows you to respond with empathy instead of reacting with more emotion. Tone also affects how confident you seem. Confidence is not only about strong words, it is about steady tone. A calm and stable tone makes others trust your message. A shaking voice, a rushed pace, or uncertain pauses can make you sound unsure even if your ideas are strong. Confidence in tone does not mean being loud or dominant. It means speaking clearly, steadily, and with controlled emotion. People follow voices that feel grounded. Tone also influences how people respect you. When you speak gently but firmly, people listen. When you speak aggressively, they may listen out of fear, but they do not build trust. Respect grows when tone communicates self-control. People respect those who stay calm while still expressing their truth. A balanced tone creates authority without hostility. Every language has patterns of tone linked to emotion. In communication, tone acts like emotional punctuation. A rising tone at the end of a sentence can sound uncertain or curious. A flat tone can sound bored. A warm tone can sound comforting. The voice becomes a map that guides the listener's emotional reaction. When you learn to use tone consciously, you gain the ability to guide how others feel during conversations. Tone also changes based on intention. If your intention is to support someone, your tone naturally softens. If your intention is to lead, your tone becomes clear and structured. If your intention is to express pain, your tone becomes slower or deeper. When you speak with intent, tone aligns with purpose. The listener feels your sincerity because the tone matches the emotion behind the message. Sometimes tone and words do not match. Someone may say, "It's fine," with a tight voice, meaning they are hurt. Someone may say, "Whatever," with a tired tone, meaning they are giving up. Someone may say, "I don't care," with a sad tone, meaning they care deeply but do not know how to express it. When tone and words conflict, people believe tone. The emotional truth hides behind the words. Being able to notice this helps you understand people beyond the surface. Your tone also affects how you speak about yourself. Self-talk spoken in a harsh tone weakens confidence. Saying "I always mess up" with frustration reinforces negativity. But saying "I will get better" with a calm tone builds motivation. The voice you use internally becomes your emotional environment. When you speak kindly to yourself, even silently, You change how you feel. Tone is self-communication too. The tone you use with others also becomes part of your identity. If you consistently speak with kindness, people see you as gentle. If you speak with intensity, people see you as passionate or aggressive. If you speak softly, people may see you as timid or thoughtful. Tone becomes a social signature. It tells the world how to understand you. When you gain control of tone, you gain control of how you are perceived. Developing a strong emotional tone does not mean suppressing feelings. It means expressing emotions in a way that others can understand without feeling attacked or confused. You can express sadness without breaking communication. You can express anger without disrespect. You can express disappointment without hurting others. Emotional clarity makes tone a tool of connection instead of conflict. Learning emotional tone awareness takes practice. It requires paying attention to how your voice sounds, not just what you say. It requires listening to how others react to your tone. It requires slowing down enough to feel your emotions before expressing them. This creates space between reaction and response. That space is where emotional intelligence grows. Tone also changes based on environment. The way you speak to a close friend is different from how you speak in a professional setting. The way you speak to a child is different from how you speak to a leader. Adapting your tone does not mean being fake. It means being aware of context. It means using tone that fits the emotional needs of the situation. Sometimes tone heals. A gentle tone can calm someone who feels overwhelmed. A steady tone can guide someone who feels lost. A warm tone can comfort someone who feels lonely. A respectful tone can repair trust after hurt. Words become medicine when tone carries care. Communication becomes emotional support. Tone can also create distance when not used carefully. A cold tone can push people away. A sharp tone can make others shut down. A sarcastic tone can create insecurity. When tone hurts others, they remember that feeling even after the words fade. Emotional tone leaves marks. Language is a tool, but tone is the emotional force behind that tool. Without tone, communication becomes flat. Without emotion, communication loses meaning. When tone aligns with purpose, communication becomes powerful, healing, and memorable. People begin to trust your voice because they feel safe hearing it. Speaking with emotional awareness is not a technique. It is a way of being. It is learning to express your feelings honestly while still caring for the feelings of others. It is turning your voice into a tool that connects instead of divides. When you understand tone, you begin to understand people. When you understand people, communication becomes deeper. And when communication becomes deeper, relationships, opportunities, and personal growth expand naturally. Tone is not something you add to language. Tone is the silent message underneath language. When you learn to speak with emotional awareness, you learn one of the greatest skills in communication. Chapter 6. Choosing words that influence. Words have the power to shape decisions, emotions, beliefs, and actions. Some words push people away while others pull them closer. Some words shut down conversations, while others open new possibilities. People often say, words are just words. But they are far more than that. Words influence how people see you, how they see themselves, and how they respond to the world around them. When you become thoughtful about the words you choose, your communication becomes more effective and meaningful. Most people speak using automatic language. They repeat phrases they learned growing up, from friends, from social media, or from habits they never questioned. They speak without realizing that their vocabulary might be limiting their relationships, confidence, or opportunities. Language becomes more powerful when you choose words rather than repeat them. When you select words intentionally, you shape how others experience the conversation instead of leaving it to chance. There are words that create connection and words that create distance. For example, when someone shares something personal and you reply with "it doesn't matter," the conversation ends. But if you say, "I understand why that matters to you," the conversation deepens. The difference is not in the information, but in the emotional impact of the words. Influence begins with emotional awareness. Words also shape how others remember you. If you speak with negativity, complaints, and criticism, people associate you with heavy energy. But if you speak with clarity, calmness, and encouragement, people feel better after talking to you. They think of you as someone who brings value, not stress. People naturally move toward voices that uplift them and away from voices that drain them. Influential language is not about being louder or more forceful. It is about being clear, respectful, and emotionally intentional. Many people think influence means persuasion or winning. True influence happens when people choose to listen because they trust your presence. Trust grows from the language you use consistently. Sometimes influence comes from the words you remove, not the words you add. Words like always, never, whatever, and fine often create frustration or misunderstanding. When someone says, "You always ignore me," the person hearing it feels attacked. They become defensive instead of understanding. But changing the wording to "I feel unheard when my feelings aren't considered" changes the entire emotional response. The first sentence accuses, the second expresses. Small changes can transform the outcome of a conversation. Influence also depends on clarity. People listen more closely when your message is simple and direct. When your words are scattered, vague, or filled with unnecessary details, people become confused or bored. Clear language respects the listener's time and attention. Being direct does not mean being harsh. It means expressing thoughts in a way others can understand easily. Influence grows when your words match your actions. If you speak confidently but do not follow through, people stop trusting your words. If you promise things you never complete, your words lose their power. But when you speak honestly and your actions support your language, people begin to rely on what you say. Your voice begins to carry weight because it reflects truth. Another part of influential language is speaking from ownership rather than blame. When you say, "You made me feel this way," the other person feels responsible for your emotions. They may feel attacked or pressured. But when you say, "I felt hurt when you said that," you express your experience without blaming them. The moment becomes a conversation rather than a confrontation. Ownership leads to understanding. Blame creates resistance. Influential language also requires you to understand the emotional state of the person you're speaking to. If someone is upset, logical words may not reach them. If someone is anxious, fast talking may overwhelm them. If someone is defensive, direct criticism may close their mind. Influence adapts to the emotional needs of the listener. When someone feels understood, they listen more closely. Influence does not force, it connects. Words that influence also come from curiosity. Instead of telling people what to think, asking thoughtful questions helps them explore their own ideas. People are more willing to accept a conclusion they reached themselves than one they were forced into. Questions unlock reflection. Statements close it. Curiosity communicates respect for the other person's perspective. It says their thoughts matter, not just yours. Influence also requires calm language during conflict. When emotions rise, language becomes emotional fuel. A single harsh word can turn a small disagreement into a fight. A calm phrase like "let's slow down and talk about this" can bring balance. Influence during conflict comes from stability, not dominance. People follow voices that stay steady when emotions are high. Sometimes influence means saying less. Some people talk too much, trying to convince others. They repeat themselves, explain too deeply, or speak without pause, hoping more words will create agreement. But influence often comes from speaking clearly and then giving space. Silence allows others to think, process, and respond. Words delivered without space can overwhelm. Words delivered with space can land more powerfully. Influence is also shaped by positive language. When you speak with possibilities, people feel inspired. When you speak with limitations, people feel stuck. Saying, "Let's try a different approach," opens a path. Saying, "This will never work," closes it. Positive language does not ignore reality. It guides people towards solutions rather than barriers. You can also influence yourself through language. The words you use internally affect your motivation, confidence, and identity. When you say, "I can't do this," you stop trying. When you say, "I don't know how yet, but I can learn," you take action. Your inner language becomes the foundation of your choices. Influence begins in the mind before it reaches others. Influential language requires awareness of assumptions. Sometimes people assume they know what others meant without asking. They react to their own interpretation, not the actual message. Asking clarifying questions prevents miscommunication and helps you respond accurately. Words become more precise when assumptions are replaced with understanding. Influence is not about getting your way. It is about guiding conversations toward clarity, respect, and shared understanding. It is about speaking from a place of strength rather than insecurity. It is about using language consciously, not automatically. When you speak with intention, clarity, emotional awareness, and respect, your words begin to carry weight naturally. You do not need to force influence. Influence grows when people trust your voice, feel safe around you, and believe your words come from an honest place. Choosing words that influence is not a strategy, it is a habit. It is a daily practice of speaking with care, listening with depth, and responding with awareness. When your language becomes thoughtful, your presence becomes powerful. People begin to remember your words because your words made them feel understood, respected, and guided. Language becomes influence when you use it to connect, not to control. When you learn this, communication becomes more than conversation. It becomes leadership, empathy, and clarity working together. Chapter 7: Communication and Human Connection. Human beings are wired for connection. We seek relationships, friendships, understanding, and a sense of belonging. Communication is the bridge that creates these connections. Without communication, people drift apart. They misunderstand each other, create distance, or build walls that block emotional closeness. Good communication brings people together. Weak communication pushes people away. The words you choose, how you listen, and how you express yourself decide whether someone feels closer to you or further from you. Connection begins with presence. When you talk to someone but your mind is somewhere else, they feel the absence. When you listen while scrolling your phone or thinking about your next task, they feel ignored. But when you give someone your full attention, even for a short moment, they feel valued. Presence communicates care without needing big speeches. Sometimes just being fully present is enough to make someone feel understood. Connection is not built by time spent together, but by attention given during that time. People open up when they feel safe. Safety in communication does not come from perfect words. It comes from emotional respect. When you respond without judgment, people share more. When you do not interrupt, people feel heard. When you show empathy, instead of giving quick answers, people feel supported. When you make space for someone's feelings, they trust you more. Emotional safety creates connection, and communication is the tool that builds that safety. Many relationships weaken, not because people change, but because they stop communicating honestly. They stop expressing their feelings. They stop asking questions. They assume instead of clarifying. Silence grows into distance. Small things become big problems because there is no conversation to clear misunderstandings. Connection requires communication as maintenance. Just like a garden needs watering, relationships need conversations to stay alive. Connection also grows when you share pieces of yourself. People feel closer to you when you are honest about your feelings, hopes, fears, and experiences. When you hide everything, people cannot connect with you because they do not know who you really are. But sharing does not mean oversharing. It means being real. It means letting others see your humanity. When you show vulnerability, others feel permission to be vulnerable too. That vulnerability is where deep connection begins. Communication becomes stronger when you ask questions that go beyond surface-level topics. Many conversations stay shallow. People talk about weather, trends, schedules, or random events. These conversations fill time, but do not build connection. Deeper questions create space for meaningful understanding. People bond when they talk about what matters to them, not just what surrounds them. When you ask thoughtful questions, you show interest in someone's inner world, not just their outer life. The connection also grows through emotional listening. When someone shares something painful, they are not asking you to fix their life, they want acknowledgement. When they share something exciting, they want you to celebrate with them. When they share confusion, they want space to think. Listening is not about solving, it is about being present for the emotion behind the words. When you respond to the emotion, not just the information, people feel deeply understood. Connection is also shaped by how you handle conflict. Many people believe arguments destroy relationships, but it is not conflict itself that damages connection, it is how conflict is handled. When you attack someone's character, blame them, or use harsh language, trust breaks. When you speak calmly about how you feel, ask for what you need, and listen to the other person's side, conflict becomes a chance to understand each other better. Healthy communication turns conflict into growth instead of distance. Sometimes connection requires saying things you are afraid to express. You may want to tell someone you miss them, but fear rejection. You may want to apologize, but fear looking weak. You may want to express love, but fear they won't feel the same. Communication feels risky when emotions are real, but not speaking can create regret. Not communicating can create distance that grows silently until it feels permanent. Many relationships end not because they were weak, but because words were never spoken. Connection also depends on how you speak about others when they are not present. If you speak kindly behind someone's back, you strengthen trust. If you speak negatively, gossip, or criticize them when they are not around, the negativity eventually influences how you treat them. Your words shape your mindset. When you speak about someone with appreciation and respect, you keep the connection positive even when you're apart. Communication is also affected by expectations. Sometimes people expect others to know how they feel without saying anything. They assume others can read their mind. When those expectations are not met, they feel disappointed. But connection cannot exist without clarity. Speaking about your needs, feelings, and boundaries helps relationships grow with understanding, not assumptions. People cannot meet expectations they do not know exist. Connection deepens when communication matches actions. Saying "I'm here for you" means nothing if you never show up. Saying "I care" feels empty if your behavior shows distance. But when your words and actions align, connection becomes strong and believable. People trust what they see consistently, not what they hear once. Communication becomes real when it is supported by behavior. Sometimes connection is strengthened through silence, not speech. Sitting with someone in quiet moments can create comfort. Being present without needing words shows emotional closeness. Communication does not always require sound. The energy you bring into the space also communicates. The feeling of peace, safety, or warmth you give someone can say more than a long conversation. Connection also depends on timing. Some conversations need patience, some truths need space before being spoken. Some feelings need time to settle before they can be shared. Communication is not just about what you say, but when you say it. Choosing the right moment creates openness. Choosing the wrong moment creates resistance. Human connection is a two-way street. It cannot exist if one person gives all the effort while the other remains closed. But communication can inspire openness. When you communicate with honesty, respect, and vulnerability, you invite others to do the same. Connection grows when people meet each other halfway, and communication is the path to that meeting point. Every meaningful connection in life is built through conversations that are honest, kind, and thoughtful. The depth of your relationships is shaped by the depth of your communication. People remember how you made them feel, and communication is how feelings are created. When you learn to use language as a tool for connection, you begin to build relationships that feel stable, comforting, and real. Human connection is not an accident. It is built through the consistent choice to speak with care, listen with empathy, and show up emotionally even when it feels difficult. Communication is not just a skill that supports connection. Communication is the foundation of connection itself. Chapter 8. The language of confidence. Confidence is not just something people see in your actions. It shows up in your voice, your words, your posture, and the way you express your thoughts. Many people believe confidence is loud, bold, and dramatic, but real confidence is often calm and steady. It is the quiet belief in yourself that shows through your communication. The language of confidence is not about sounding superior or trying to impress others. It is about speaking in a way that reflects inner clarity. People often misunderstand confidence. They think confident people always know what to say, never feel nervous, and always sound strong. But confidence does not remove fear. It helps you speak even when fear is present. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision that doubt will not control you. When you speak confidently, you are not claiming to be perfect. You are showing that you trust yourself enough to share your thoughts. The language of confidence begins with clarity. When you know what you want to say, the words come out more direct. When you are unsure, you may speak in circles, add too many words, or soften your message so much that your point gets lost. People listen more closely to clear communication because clarity shows intention. When you speak with clarity, others assume you have thought about what you are saying, and that builds trust. Confidence also shows through pacing. People who rush through sentences often sound nervous, even when they are not. They speak fast because silence feels uncomfortable. But confident language makes space for pauses. A pause does not mean you have lost your thought. It means you are choosing your words. Pauses create strength. They show that you are not afraid of silence. They give your words room to land in the listener's mind. Tone also reflects confidence. A steady tone shows control. You do not need to raise your voice to be heard. You do not need sharp edges to sound serious. You do not need to sound angry to express intensity. Confidence speaks with balance. It sounds grounded, not desperate. The goal is not to sound powerful, but to sound secure. When your tone carries calm energy, others feel that security. Confidence is also visible in how you express disagreement. People who lack confidence may avoid honesty to prevent conflict. They may say yes when they want to say no. They may stay silent even when something matters to them. But confident communication expresses truth respectfully. It does not hide opinions out of fear or force opinions onto others. Confidence allows you to say, "I see this differently," without attacking or apologizing for having a perspective. Weak communication often hides behind unclear language. Phrases like, "I guess," "maybe," "I don't know," or "it's probably nothing" can make your ideas sound less important, even when they are meaningful. Confident communication uses language that reflects ownership. You say, "I think," "I believe," or "I want," not because you are stubborn, but because you take responsibility for your thoughts. When you own your words, others take them seriously. Confidence also comes from comfort with imperfection. Many people hesitate to speak because they fear making mistakes. They think every sentence must be perfect or polished, but communication is not a performance. It is an expression. Confident speakers allow themselves to stumble, correct themselves, and continue. They do not freeze when words come out wrong. They understand that mistakes are part of human conversation. Confidence also means asking questions without feeling small. Some people stay silent when they do not understand something because they fear looking uneducated. But confident communication chooses understanding over appearance. Asking questions shows curiosity, not weakness. When you ask, you grow. When you pretend to know, you stay stuck. Confidence allows you to say, "Can you explain that?" without shame. The language of confidence is not loud declarations about your worth. It is simple statements spoken from truth. When you say, "This is important to me," you communicate value. When you say, "I need support," you communicate self-awareness. When you say, "I am learning," you communicate responsibility. These phrases come from strength, not insecurity. Confidence also means not over-explaining. When people feel insecure, they often add too many reasons to justify themselves. They repeat ideas, defend every word, and try too hard to prove their point. But confident language trusts that one clear explanation can be enough. When others ask for more detail, you give it, but you do not feel the need to convince them. Confidence does not chase approval. Body language also supports verbal confidence. When your posture is open, your shoulders relaxed, and your eyes steady, your words sound stronger. The listener feels your presence. But if you curl inward, avoid eye contact, or move restlessly, even strong words may sound uncertain. The body and voice work together to shape communication. Confidence is a physical experience as much as a verbal one. Confidence also means expressing needs without guilt. Many people struggle to communicate boundaries because they worry they will seem selfish. They stay quiet until resentment builds. But confident communication allows you to say, "I can't do that today," or "I need time alone," or "that doesn't feel right to me." Boundaries spoken with calm honesty build respect, not distance. People respect those who respect themselves. Confidence grows when you speak from authenticity instead of performance. Trying to impress others can make your speech sound forced. Trying to hide your true self can make your voice sound small. But when you speak from who you really are, your voice becomes natural and strong. Authentic communication creates comfort for both you and the listener. People connect with honesty, not perfection. Confidence is also built through practice. The more you speak, the more natural communication becomes. You can develop confidence by reading aloud, recording your voice, having conversations intentionally, or speaking more often in situations that challenge you. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build through action. You grow by using your voice, not by avoiding it. Confidence also shapes how others respond to you. When you speak with clarity, others treat your thoughts with seriousness. When you speak with hesitation, they may overlook your ideas. Your language teaches people how to interact with you. When your voice reflects confidence, your relationships, opportunities, and influence all increase. People trust voices that trust themselves. Yet confidence is not dominance. It is not speaking over others or trying to win every conversation. Confident communication respects others' voices while honoring your own. It invites conversation rather than controlling it. True confidence makes space for others instead of trying to prove superiority. People feel safe around confident communicators because their presence is steady, not demanding. Confidence also means staying calm when others disagree. Insecurity turns disagreement into threat. Confidence turns disagreement into discussion. You do not need everyone to agree with you. You do not need your ideas to be accepted immediately. You can express your thoughts and stand by them without needing validation. Confidence removes the desperation that often enters communication. The language of confidence builds trust in yourself. Every time you speak honestly, set a boundary, ask a question, or express a thought clearly, you reinforce the belief that your voice matters. Confidence grows from consistent evidence. The more you show up, the stronger that belief becomes. Confidence begins within. The voice you use with yourself becomes the voice you use with others. If you constantly criticize yourself, you speak timidly. If you encourage yourself, you speak with strength. Inner language shapes outer language. Confidence starts as a mindset and becomes a communication style. The more you practice confident communication, the more natural it becomes. You start expressing thoughts clearly. You stop hiding behind fear. You speak with presence, not doubt. Over time, your voice becomes not just a sound, but a reflection of a strong and grounded self. Confidence is not something you wait to have before speaking. It is something you create through the act of speaking. The language of confidence grows from the willingness to use your voice even when you are unsure. When you speak from truth, instead of fear, your words begin to carry power. Chapter 9. How communication shapes your identity. The way you speak does not just affect how others see you, it also affects how you see yourself. Every sentence you say, every story you tell, and every way you express your feelings slowly builds an image of who you are. Communication is not just something you use to share thoughts, it is something that forms your identity. The words you choose, the tone you speak with, and the confidence behind your voice all create a reflection of how you see your value in the world. When you speak with clarity and confidence, your mind starts believing that you are capable. When you speak with doubt, hesitation, or negative self-talk, your mind begins to accept that version of you as reality. Identity is not built in one moment. It is built through repeated communication, both external and internal. The way you talk about yourself becomes the story your brain tells you about who you are. People often underestimate how powerful self-talk can be. If you tell yourself you are shy, uninteresting, or not good at speaking, your actions start to match those beliefs. You avoid conversations, stay quiet even when you have ideas, and allow others to speak for you. Over time, silence turns into identity. But if you speak to yourself with encouragement, saying you are learning, improving, and capable, you begin acting in ways that match those beliefs. You speak more, you share more, you participate more. Identity follows direction. The identity you build through communication also affects how others treat you. If you speak with doubt, people may assume you need guidance. If you speak with strength, people treat you as someone who knows what they are doing. If your words are full of negativity, people may distance themselves. If your words are full of calm energy, people may feel safe around you. Others respond to the identity your communication projects. Sometimes people speak in a way that limits them without realizing it. They say things like, "I'm not social," "I don't deserve that," or "people don't listen to me." These are not just sentences, they are identity statements. The more you repeat them, the more they shape behavior. You begin acting according to the story you tell yourself. But identity can change when language changes. Instead of "I'm not social," you might say, "I'm learning to connect." Instead of "I'm not good at speaking," you might say, "I'm improving with practice." These small adjustments open doors in your mind. Communication also shapes identity through how you speak about your past. Many people describe themselves using old versions of who they were. They say things like, "I've always been this way," even when they have changed. They carry old versions of themselves because they keep repeating them out loud. When you retell painful memories in a way that defines your identity, you stay connected to that version of yourself. But when you talk about your past with growth in mind, you give yourself permission to evolve. The story you tell about your past decides whether it holds you back or helps you grow. Identity also forms through the language you use in relationships. When you speak with fear of rejection, you hold back parts of yourself. You become smaller to keep peace. But when you communicate openly, your relationships reflect your true self. When your identity is hidden, relationships feel empty. When your identity is expressed, relationships feel real. Communication allows others to meet who you truly are, rather than who you pretend to be. Some people lose their voice because they are surrounded by people who do not listen. They learn to stay quiet because speaking never felt safe. Over time, silence becomes identity, but identity built from emotional defense is not permanent. When you enter spaces where you are heard and respected, your voice begins to return. Communication grows when it finally has room to exist. The way you communicate also affects your future identity. Every time you speak up in a situation where you once stayed silent, you become a more confident version of yourself. Every time you choose honesty instead of fear, you become a stronger version of yourself. Every time you hold boundaries instead of avoiding conflict, you become a more self-respecting version of yourself. Identity is built through action powered by language. Your identity is also shaped by how you communicate your goals. If you speak about your dreams quietly, as if you are unsure you deserve them, you may never act on them. But when you speak about your dreams with clarity and emotion, your brain begins to treat them as real possibilities. Saying, "I want to write a book," feels different from saying, "I am writing a book." Saying, "I want to start a business," feels different from saying, "I am building a business." Language turns intention into identity. When your words reflect commitment, action follows, confidence grows. When you communicate your value, when you speak about your skills directly, you are not bragging, you are acknowledging your strengths. People who cannot communicate their value often get overlooked, even when they are talented. People who speak with clarity about what they bring to the table often gain opportunities. Identity becomes visible to others when you express it clearly. Sometimes identity needs protection. If you communicate too much with people who dismiss your thoughts or laugh at your growth, their reactions may shape how you see yourself. Not every environment deserves access to your inner voice. Communication becomes a boundary when you choose where to express and where to stay silent. Protecting your identity is not hiding, it's choosing emotional safety. Identity also forms through the language of responsibility. When you say, "This happened to me," you see yourself as someone affected by life. When you say, "This happened, and now I get to choose how I respond," you see yourself as someone with power. The shift in language changes the role you play in your own story. Responsibility creates identity built on strength rather than limitations. The voice inside your mind eventually becomes the voice you use with others. If your inner dialogue is full of doubt, your outer communication carries hesitation. If your inner dialogue is full of belief, your words carry inspiration. The internal voice trains the external voice. This is why speaking kindly to yourself is not about positivity. It is about building an identity that supports growth. Identity is not fixed. You become the person you communicate as every day. When you speak as if you are confident, you start behaving with confidence. When you speak as if you are capable, your actions follow. When you speak as if you are closed, you shrink. When you speak as if you are growing, you expand. Language becomes a path to becoming who you want to be. Your identity is shaped by your communication, and your communication is shaped by your identity. The two grow together. If you want to change who you are becoming, start by changing the way you speak to others and to yourself. Over time, your words will guide your growth, your behavior, and your sense of self. Your voice can limit you, or it can free you. The choice is made every time you speak. Chapter 10. The role of body language in communication. Body language speaks before words do. When you enter a room, sit down, look at someone, or move your hands as you talk, you are already communicating. Even when you are silent, your body sends signals about how you feel, what you think, and how confident you are. People notice your posture, eye contact, facial expression, and movement faster than they notice the words you use. This is why body language is a powerful part of communication. It shapes how others understand your message, and it shapes how you see yourself while speaking. Most people think communication is only about talking. They focus on vocabulary, tone, and sentences, but your body is constantly speaking on your behalf. When you fold your arms tightly, People may sense that you are closed off. When you avoid eye contact, they may think you are nervous or hiding something. When you slouch, they may assume you lack confidence. These signals may not match what you truly feel, but others interpret them anyway. Body language is not just something people see, it is something they feel, even without thinking about it. Your body also communicates energy. When you walk slowly with your head down, your energy feels low. When you walk with your shoulders back and your head held up, your energy feels stronger. People read this energy instantly, often without even trying. This is why someone can enter a space quietly, yet still feel noticeable. Their presence speaks for them. Communication is not just what you say, it is the presence you carry. Confidence is not only a feeling, it is a posture. When your body stands tall, your mind feels stronger. When your body shrinks, your mind starts believing you are smaller. Your brain listens to your body just as much as your body follows your mind. If you sit up straight, hold your head up, and breathe calmly, your brain begins to feel more confident. This is why changing body language can change how you feel from the inside. Eye contact is one of the strongest forms of body language. When you look at someone while speaking, it shows attention, respect, and confidence. It tells the other person that you are present in the conversation. When you avoid eye contact, the other person may feel ignored or unimportant, but eye contact should feel natural, not forced. Staring too intensely can create discomfort. Balanced eye contact creates connection while respecting personal space. Your hands also speak. When you talk with your hands relaxed and open, you appear honest and approachable. When your hands are hidden in pockets or behind your back, you may seem unsure or guarded. When your hands move too wildly, it may distract others. Natural movement supports your words by expressing emotion and passion. People often trust speakers more when their hands match the tone of their voice, because the message feels aligned. Facial expression plays a big role in communication. A simple smile can make people feel welcome. A calm expression can make someone feel safe sharing personal thoughts. A frustrated expression can make people nervous, even if your words are gentle. People react to your face long before they react to your sentences. Even small changes in expression can influence the entire conversation. Communication becomes easier when your face matches your intention. Body language also affects listening. When you nod gently while someone is speaking, they feel encouraged to continue. When your eyes wander away, they may feel ignored. When your body turns slightly away from them, they may feel rejected. But when you lean slightly forward, keep your eyes focused and relax your expression, they feel heard. Listening is not only about being quiet, it is about showing that you care. Your environment can influence your body language. If you feel uncomfortable or out of place, your posture may tighten. If you feel welcomed and confident, your body relaxes naturally. Learning to control body language means learning how to stay grounded, even when you feel nervous. Instead of letting anxiety shape your posture, you choose calmness in your body. This sends a message to your mind and to others that you are present and capable. Sometimes body language reveals emotions you are trying to hide. If you are anxious, your hands may shake. If you are unsure, your shoulders may drop. If you feel defensive, your jaw may tighten. These signals are not weakness, they are information. When you notice your own body language, you gain more emotional awareness. You begin understanding yourself better. You can choose breathing, posture, and stillness to support your emotions rather than fight them. Body language can also help prevent misunderstandings. Sometimes words are misheard or misinterpreted, but body language adds clarity. If your tone is neutral but your expression is soft, others feel comforted. If your message is serious but your posture is calm, others feel safe listening. When body language matches the meaning of your words, communication becomes clearer and easier. The spaces between movement matter too. Stillness can communicate strength, When you speak without fidgeting, tapping, or restless movements, your voice feels more controlled. People trust a steady presence. Movement should support your words, not distract from them. When your body is calm, your message feels more stable. Body language also plays a role in leadership. People follow those who appear grounded and confident. Leaders do not just give instructions, they project clarity through their presence. When you stand tall, make eye contact, and speak with steady gestures, others feel more guided by you. Leadership begins with how you carry yourself before you even speak. Your body language can inspire trust when it feels open. People trust you more when your posture is relaxed, your hands visible, and your expression genuine. They feel safe sharing thoughts, asking questions, and being honest. When your body language is closed or tense, people may hold back. Communication becomes shallow when the body does not allow emotional safety. Sometimes body language transforms relationships simply by showing effort. When someone is upset, sitting beside them rather than standing above them can help them feel understood. When someone feels ignored, turning your body fully toward them can make them feel acknowledged. When someone shares something painful, quiet presence can speak louder than words. Body language creates connection, even when speech is limited. You can also protect your energy through body language. If someone is overwhelming you, stepping back slightly can create personal space. If a conversation is becoming intense, relaxing your shoulders and breathing slowly can prevent emotional escalation. If you need boundaries, standing still and speaking calmly can show you will not be pushed. Your body can defend your emotional space without aggression. Body language is learned through awareness. Watching how others respond when you enter a room can teach you about your presence. Observing how people lean in or pull away can show whether they feel comfortable. Reflecting on how your body reacts in stress can help you communicate more mindfully. The more aware you are, the more control you have. Changing body language does not mean pretending to be someone else. It means expressing your true self more clearly. Your body should support your thoughts, not fight them. When your words and body language match, people trust you. When they conflict, people become confused. Authenticity comes from alignment. Even small improvements in body language can create big changes in communication. Standing taller can make you feel more capable. Making eye contact can deepen connection. Relaxing your hands can make your speech feel more natural. These small shifts create confidence that grows over time. Communication becomes easier because your presence matches your intention. Body language is always speaking, whether you realize it or not. When you learn to use it consciously, you gain a tool that supports your voice, strengthens your relationships, and increases your influence. Your body can communicate confidence, respect, empathy, strength, and calmness without saying a word. Learning to carry yourself with awareness turns everyday interactions into meaningful connections. Chapter 11. How communication builds opportunity. Opportunity does not always arrive at your door by accident. Most of the time, opportunity appears because of the way you speak, the people you connect with, and the way you express who you are. Communication is not just a way to share information. It is a way to build pathways to new experiences, new relationships, and new chances in life. Many people think success depends only on talent, luck, or hard work. Those things matter, but communication often decides whether your talent is seen, whether luck finds you, and whether hard work gets recognized. Your voice can open doors that may stay closed if you remain silent. Opportunities often begin with simple conversations. A person you meet casually might become a future partner, friend, mentor, or supporter. But that connection only forms when communication turns a moment into a relationship. If you never speak, people never know what you think, what you can offer, or what you stand for. Your voice is how others discover your value. Staying silent can feel safe, but silence hides potential. Communication reveals it. Opportunity also grows from curiosity. When you ask questions, you learn more about people, ideas, and possibilities. Many doors stay invisible because people never ask. A single question like, "How did you do that?" or "Can I be a part of this?" can lead to experiences that change your life. Communication is how you express interest in the world beyond yourself. When you show interest, the world becomes more open to you. The way you speak about yourself influences the opportunities you receive. If you introduce yourself in a shy or apologetic way, people may overlook what you offer. If you speak confidently about your goals and skills, people remember you. They begin to think of you when chances arise. Your voice becomes part of their memory of what you can contribute. When you communicate your identity clearly, the world knows how to involve you. Confidence in communication also affects whether you take risks. Many opportunities are missed, not because someone else took them, but because fear kept you quiet. You might stay silent in a room where your idea could change the direction of a project. You might avoid saying hello to someone who could help you grow. You might stop yourself from asking for something you deserve. Communication is the bridge between desire and action. When you use your voice, you step toward opportunity instead of waiting for it to find you. Opportunities often come through relationships. People like to work with those they understand, trust, and feel comfortable with. Communication builds that comfort. When you speak respectfully, listen carefully, and stay open to other people's ideas, they enjoy being around you. They think of you when new chances appear. They want you involved because you make communication easier, not harder. Skills alone do not build networks. Communication does. People remember how you communicate more than what you accomplish. They remember how you made them feel. If people feel inspired, safe, and respected around you, they want you in their circle. If they feel judged or ignored, they keep their distance. Communication decides where you belong in the spaces you enter. Speaking clearly about your goals also attracts opportunity. If you say you want to learn, people may show you how. If you say you want to grow, people may guide you. If you say nothing, people assume you do not need anything. Your dreams become invisible when you keep them unspoken. Speaking about your goals is not bragging. It is giving the world permission to help you. Even small conversations can lead to big changes. A compliment can start a friendship. Asking for advice can create mentorship. Sharing an idea can spark collaboration. Communication turns strangers into allies. It turns moments into possibilities. You cannot predict which conversation will matter most, so you approach every interaction with openness. Opportunity also grows from clarity. When you explain your thoughts simply, people understand you faster. When you speak with too many words or too much confusion, people stop listening. Clear communication shows that your mind is organized, and organized thinking earns respect. People are more willing to trust someone whose words make sense. They believe someone who communicates clearly can lead, plan, and take action. Clarity becomes a signal of leadership. Sometimes opportunities appear in difficult conversations. Speaking up when something is wrong can lead to change. Asking for better treatment can lead to boundaries being respected. Telling someone how you feel can lead to deeper connection. Silence in these moments may feel easier, but communication creates the possibility for improvement. Opportunity is not always about success. Sometimes it is about creating better conditions for your life through honest dialogue. Communication also builds opportunity by turning ideas into reality. Many people have dreams but never express them. They keep plans in their mind and wait for the perfect moment to start. But ideas need communication to move forward. When you talk about an idea, others help shape it. They offer resources, support, and guidance. You learn more when you share your thoughts. Ideas grow faster when spoken aloud. Your language can also influence how others perceive your future. If you speak like someone who expects progress, people see you as someone who takes life seriously. If you speak like someone waiting passively, people see you as unsure. People invest in those who invest in themselves. Communication reflects that investment. Sometimes opportunities come from helping others. When you speak to uplift and encourage, people remember your kindness. They want to return support in the future. Communication that gives value often receives value later. Words become seeds that grow into connections, respect, gratitude, and collaboration. When you speak generously, your relationships strengthen and opportunities multiply. The way you communicate in challenging moments also matters. When you stay calm under pressure, people see you as reliable. When you express emotions honestly instead of exploding, people trust you more. When you admit mistakes without fear, people respect your maturity. These moments of communication show character, and character creates long-term opportunity. Body language plays a role too. When you stand with confidence, people see potential in you. When you look people in the eyes while speaking, they feel your presence. When you nod while listening, they feel understood. Communication goes beyond words. It includes how you physically show up in the world. Presence itself attracts opportunity. Your voice can create your reputation. Over time, the way you communicate becomes the way people describe you. If you speak thoughtfully, you become known as thoughtful. If you speak with encouragement, you become known as supportive. If you speak with purpose, you become known as driven. Opportunities often go to people who are remembered. Your communication style shapes that memory. You do not need to be the loudest person in the room to create opportunity. You need to speak with intention. You need to share your ideas when they matter. You need to listen carefully so you understand where opportunities exist. You need to express yourself sincerely so people trust your words. Influence does not come from volume. It comes from presence. Every connection you form through communication is a path you might walk later. Every interaction has the potential to become something meaningful. You communicate not to impress others, but to connect, understand, and create possibilities that are real. Opportunity is not luck. It is often communication that finally creates the path forward. Your voice is a tool. Use it, and doors begin to open. Chapter 12: Transforming Yourself Through Communication. Communication is more than a skill. It is a process of becoming. Every word you speak, every emotion you express, and every moment you choose to listen reflects the person you are and shapes the person you are becoming. The way you communicate today does not simply change your conversations. It changes your identity, your relationships, and the direction of your life. Communication is not just how you talk to others. It is how you shape the world around you by shaping yourself from within. Transformation begins with awareness. When you realize that your voice holds power, you stop speaking just to fill space. You speak to connect, to create meaning, to influence your path. You begin to see that silence is not the absence of communication, but a choice that can carry strength. You no longer react out of habit or fear. You choose your words with intention because you understand they build your future. Transformation starts when you recognize that your voice is not random. It is a part of your identity. The person you become is connected to how you express your needs, boundaries, dreams, and values. If you stay quiet about what matters, the world cannot support you. If you speak with purpose, the world starts aligning with your intentions. Communication turns internal desire into external reality. The thoughts you keep inside remain potential. The thoughts you express begin to shape your life. When you communicate honestly, you create space for your true self to appear in the world instead of staying hidden in your mind. Growth also comes from learning to communicate your feelings instead of suppressing them. Many people hold pain in silence because they fear judgment or rejection. They stay quiet to protect themselves, but silence becomes a wall that blocks connection. When you speak your emotions softly and honestly, you create healing. You allow others to understand you, not just guess who you are. Emotional communication is not weakness. It is courage. It takes strength to say how you feel. It takes growth to speak from vulnerability instead of anger or withdrawal. Transformation also happens through the way you listen. Listening is not just waiting for your turn to speak. It is giving someone space to exist without needing to control their story. When you listen without judgment, people open up. They trust you. They change because they feel seen. And as they change, you also change. Listening expands your mind, softens your heart, and teaches you things speaking never could. Listening is communication that transforms from the inside out. You grow when you learn to communicate without ego. Ego tries to win conversations, defend pride, and prove superiority. Growth tries to understand, connect, and express truth. When you let go of the need to be right, you gain the ability to learn. You stop speaking to dominate and start speaking to understand. Communication becomes a tool for clarity, not conflict. The more you communicate from truth rather than ego, the more peaceful your relationships become and the more aligned you feel with your real self. Transformation also comes from how you speak to yourself. The voice in your mind shapes your reality long before you speak out loud. If you constantly repeat that you are not capable, not worthy, or not ready, you shape an identity built on limitation. If you tell yourself you can grow, learn, and rise, you shape an identity built on possibility. The words you choose internally become your emotional foundation. Self-communication is the beginning of all external communication. Changing your life often starts with changing what you say to yourself when no one is listening. Your communication style grows as you develop emotional maturity. You learn that calmness is stronger than shouting. Clarity is stronger than anger. Honesty is stronger than silence. Confidence is stronger than performance. You begin to choose responses that align with who you want to become, rather than reacting from old patterns. Communication becomes a daily practice of becoming the higher version of yourself. Every conversation is a chance to choose growth over instinct. Transformation also means understanding that your voice matters. Many people speak quietly because they were trained to believe their opinions are unnecessary. They shrink themselves because they never felt heard. But learning to communicate confidently is a way of reclaiming space in the world. When you speak with strength, you step into your identity. You stop waiting for permission. You begin to exist more fully. Communication becomes an act of self-respect. You also transform through the people you communicate with. When you surround yourself with people who listen, support, and challenge you, your communication grows. When you stay in environments where you must hide or defend yourself, your voice becomes small. Sometimes growth requires leaving conversations that limit who you are becoming. Sometimes transformation requires finding people who recognize your voice. Communication is not just expression. It is choosing the spaces where expression can thrive. Your words also shape your future, because they guide your decisions. When you speak goals aloud, they become real. When you commit to action verbally, you hold yourself accountable. When you express your vision to others, you build connections that help that vision come to life. Communication becomes a map of where you are going. Your words lead your steps. Transformation is not just mental, it becomes physical movement, because communication gives direction. There will be moments when communication challenges you. Moments where speaking truth feels risky. Moments where silence feels safe, but growth demands voice. These moments are where transformation is tested. Growth requires using your voice, even when it shakes. Confidence is not built in moments of comfort. It is built in moments where you speak anyway. Transformation is not loud. It is consistent. Over time, your communication reflects the person you have grown into. You speak with clarity because your mind is clearer. You speak with kindness because your heart is softer. You speak with strength because you have learned from pain. You speak with patience because you understand the value of understanding. You speak with presence because you are no longer lost in distraction. Communication becomes a mirror of your inner evolution. And as you evolve, the world around you changes, relationships deepen, opportunities appear. People listen differently. You carry yourself with more purpose. You begin to live in a way that feels aligned with who you want to be. Communication does not just change how you talk, it changes how you live. Your voice is not just sound. It is identity, emotion, direction, influence, and transformation. When you learn to use it with intention, you become a different version of yourself. You rise into someone who understands the power of expression. You become someone who speaks with meaning, listens with empathy, and creates connection wherever you go. Transformation is not something that happens once. It is something that happens every time you choose to communicate with awareness. Every time you choose truth over silence. Every time you choose connection over ego. Every time you choose clarity over fear. Communication becomes the way you grow for the rest of your life. Your voice is part of your becoming.